In today's show, we discuss who do we trust more? The USA, the EU, Russia, or China? And we're going to try and place them in order of trust.
And now, the TNT Talk Show, daring to go where other podcasts fear to tread.
Hello, I'm Tony Fasula and I share the stage with my esteemed friend and colleague, Taya Boya. Taya, hello my friend once again. I hope you keep it safe and well.
Oh, the Tony, what's the matter with my hair? I have no idea. Anyway. Yeah, hello audience and all that sort of thing.
Hooray!
So, actually, I'm going to do something that Tony usually does, which is to ask you to subscribe to any channel that you follow us on. Please subscribe, because I recently got some statistics that show that people who subscribe to our show are more than 44.4% likely to win the lottery. So, yeah, well, there you go. So there you go.
You heard it here first,
you heard it here first. Now, we are two numpties, and all that information may not be accurate. But it's worth a punt, isn't it?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Push the old subscribe button and good luck.
Yeah. You'll get all the notifications of our show every week in your whatever channel you're on, however they contact you. So yeah, please like, comment and subscribe, as Tayo says, and you'll get information regarding our shows on a weekly basis. So yes, please continue to do that, as Tayo says. And whether you win the lottery, if you do, let us know.
Let us definitely get in touch. Don't be a stranger. Right, so you know my question time thingy. Here we go. So let's do the question time thingy. Got an interesting one for you. I mean, they're all interesting, but this one. If you were to spend $1 million a day since Jesus died, now you've been working in banking and all that, do you happen to know, since we're in 2026, can you approximate how much money you'd have spent if you had spent $1 million every single day since Jesus died? How much do you think you'd have spent?
That's a good question. You're talking, let me try and work it out in my head now. So every day, $1 million. So 365 million a year. Mm-hmm. So let's say half 500 million a year, roughly. In 2,000 years, that's a few billion. Few hundred billion,
yeah. Turns out to be about 750 billion, around about, just rounding it up, okay? 750 billion.
Yeah.
Do you realize that's not $1 trillion?
No.
It's not even $1 trillion.
No.
And you realize America is 38 trillion in debt.
I know.
Kind of gives you kind of perspective. And for our American audience, I think they probably just need to have a little sit down for a while whilst they internalize that and go, sorry, what?
I know.
Sorry, our American friends, cousins across the pond. Yeah, that's
No, 38 trillion. It's getting bigger, not less, which is...
It's getting bigger. I mean, they're adding 2 trillion a year to it. And that's going to grow.
That's not sustainable. Anyway, that's not all we're discussing.
There is a reason why it's coming up, as Tony's about to explain to you, because of the topic.
Yeah. The topic today, we're going to... it's a question that's sort of come about fairly recently because of what's happening in the States and what's happening around the world. And so we're asking a question, whom do we trust more? As from a UK perspective in England. Do we trust the USA, the EU, Russia, or China? So we're going to sort of have a little debate. We're going to discuss the pros and cons and see where this takes us regarding these four powers of the planet. Let's be honest. I mean, there are others too, but we're focusing on these four because they're the ones mostly in the news. So who would we, from a UK perspective, trust? So if you are from one of these countries, you may get in touch and say, no, you haven't considered this, and this. Why we should trust you. So it's almost like a courting process on your part why we, the UK, should trust you. But we, Taya and I, will have a little bit of a debate and discuss what we think the choices should be. So Taya, as this was, I think, your question, was it yours? I think it was.
No, yours.
Oh, it was one of mine. Oh, okay. But I want to ask you first to begin with. I mean, what should we say? I mean, what do we say? Is it trust or reliability? What's the word?
Well, trust. I mean, if you want to join, I mean, this is becoming a multipolar world now, isn't it? So we used to have a unipolar world where America was clearly the front runner and the sole superpower. That's changed, and it's changing even more every single day. And it's becoming a multipolar world. I think his name is, I think his initials are J.D. Vance. Is that even J.D. Vance? And he's the vice president, is he not?
Yes.
Of America. Even he has said openly that, look, things are not what they used to be. It's becoming a multipolar world. Marco Rubio, who is America's Secretary of State, basically their foreign minister. But he's holding two portfolios. He's foreign minister and he's also national security advisor. So a very powerful man. He's openly said the same thing, that we have to prepare for America living in a multipolar world. Now, that gives Britain the ability to be agile, which is what leaving the EU, what Brexit was supposed to be, was supposed to give us agility to form our own pathways through geopolitics and not be beholden to any power center. We didn't take it, so it was pretty unfortunate. However, we presented it again with another choice. Where do we go? We could do what many people in the UK today will think of as being the unthinkable and segue towards China and Russia and the BRICS, which personally is the most incredibly sensible thing to do, and to leave the moribund and decrepit West behind, or dance the light fandango, play the balancing game, such as India is trying to do. But if you watch what the Indians are doing and how they're not trusted by either side fully, because no one fully trusts someone who's not committing. You can't trust someone who sits on the fence. This is the problem. Now, a very, very deft politician might be able to pull it off, but I'm not sure that's the case. I don't believe that's the actual case, that we have those deft politicians. I mean, our prime minister is Keir Starmer. I mean, that's all you have to know about deftness. I mean, right? So when you say what do we do, it's trustworthiness, I think, is what comes into it. Who do we trust? Who, apart from who's going to make it in the future, because we don't know. For America could rise, like a phoenix out of the fire. It could rise and grow strong. I mean, 38 trillion now looks like, well, that's an insoluble problem. But they might come up with an American clever solution and amaze us all and do something stunning and, be back in the driver's seat. Or they might not. So, but who's going to look after us? I think that's what that's what the question actually asks. There's the EU, there's Russia, and there's China. And Russia and China are kind of more or less, right now, they're on the same side. So that's almost like, in fact, it's supposed to be an alliance. And they've stated it's more than a friendship. So we'll be joining an alliance, and they are the underpinning of BRICS. So we have that choice. We have the EU, and then we have America. Today's show is, which one makes sense?
The thing is, though, there's trust and then there's reliability, and it doesn't just fall on just one single trust or reliability angle, because we've got to deal with our institution, we've got to deal with economic side, we've got to deal with transactional side, and each one of these have got their pros and cons, let's be honest. And we in the UK are not big enough or self-sufficient in any way to stand on our own 2 feet. We have to align. And I think, as you've said now, oh, well, we shouldn't sit on the fence. I think that's the only logical course, because if you align with only one and disregard the rest, you could end yourself in real problems if you've picked the wrong horse to back. Although we can touch on what the pros and cons of each one is based on our discussion, and whether or not the choices we've made are actually in our hands. That's another question. So, there are certain things that we need to sort of consider. And the first the first one to discuss, who's Tayo's personal favourite, is the EU. Because if you want if you want predictability, they are actually the most stable. Let's be honest, because it's made up of 27 nations, and there's a heck of a lot of bureaucracy to anything done. So things are slow to move, but and also it's very hard to change course because they are what they are. But they're pretty hot on the value of law, by and large, compared to the majority. Human rights for sure. And let's be honest, if you had to set a standard worldwide, theirs is the leader in standards. You don't have to agree with the standards, but you have to just acknowledge that they are pretty good with their standards. When they stick with standards, they tend to stick with them. Their regulations and things like that, they're very bureaucratic in that realm. So they tend to want to stick to regulation and follow the rules. Whether the rules are right is up for debate, but they pretty much, if you had to put in, the gold standard, it would be them. Whether you agree with those rules, it's just, like I said, separate topic. But for rules of law and human rights and blah, 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 they're the standard bearer at the moment. But
you see, here's the thing. A person who has jumped out of an aeroplane without a parachute is, for a while, in a pretty stable condition. Not much change. Nice and airy. Plenty of fresh air.
That's a very interesting
now,
way of
if you have jumped out and clung to this person, the EU I'm talking about, you could feel that everything is great, but here's the problem. The future is not bright. And you say they have... Look, okay, do you know what? I have to explain my methodology, because I have brought method to this madness of the discussion. And I need to explain my methodology. What I did was I created a system where I assigned 2 reasons for trusting each country, each unit, each country, and then EU is not a country, it's whatever it is, it's association, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I assigned, 8 stars, and each bullet point had to have a unique star. I couldn't assign 8 stars twice, for example.
Okay.
Right? So that way, I had to make up my mind and actually order them in the star system.
Okay.
But I didn't do it in a simplistic manner of which is the best, which is the most... No. What I did was, here are the most pertinent traits for me as an individual, looking at and thinking of it as a Briton, and how Britain should consider those countries and the EU, and then reverse it. So if you get a lot of points in my system, that's not a good thing.
Okay. So lower the points is better.
The lower the points is better, but you let me give you an example. Let me give you an example.
Can we share your stats? Because that sounds quite interesting, and it's an interesting viewpoint. So we can share it with the blurb of our show. Is it something that you can make available?
Stats?
Yeah, your stats, your figures.
Figures?
Well, how did you make this assessment?
Standards.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ty makes these
This is
opinions
the TNT
from
talk show. We don't do standards and stats. What the hell's the matter with you? These holidays, man, they're taking a lot from you, Tony, man. They're taking too much. You lost the plot now. What? Standards? Stats?
I was hoping we were actually raising our game here. Come on.
What? And confuse the audience. What? With my 44.4% probability of winning a blooming lottery ticket for subscribing? Stats? All right. Oh.
Okay.
Jeez, Tony, what?
Try and justify your choices then. At least
There we go.
audience
Here
can
we go.
make
What do you think
head
of
or
this?
tail it.
So, okay, the EU's idea of strategic autonomy is 27 countries agreeing to disagree in 5 different languages. Now, that's pretty stable, like you said, because getting 27 countries to agree in 5 languages, that's difficult. So you can trust that the chaos will continue for a long time. There'll be, what was it, reliability, you said. They are reliable in being unreliable. There's no, there are 2 ways of being worried about reliability. There's the American way, which is Donald Trump's way, which you don't know what the hell is going to happen tomorrow. But there's the EU way, the far better way of knowing that in 100 years it's going to be a lot worse than it is today. But you can factor that into your calculations. You see what I mean? It's very trustworthy.
The markets like stability.
Yes,
That's why the
EU's that's why the EU is crashing, but it's crashing very slowly because the markets can factor for it. We know that in 10 years' time it's going to be like 4% worse, and then we can live with that because we know it's going to be 4% worse. You plan on going on 4% less, fewer holidays, that sort of thing. You work it out. You live with, or you stack up money, and this is what, once you know what tomorrow is like, it's going to be like, you can work with it. And I think that's what makes the EU one of the stronger elements and the more reliable elements, trustworthy elements.
Yes.
And that's my system. So in my system, I believe I gave them, the EU, for that particular bullet point, I gave them 8 stars. They won. They win hands down of all the countries and whatever associations. The EU does best
for stability.
For stability, you can't beat them for stability, reliability.
So but based on your formula, then they were the best. Let's hear the others. So you got 4 entities in this discussion. So how do they rank?
Well, once they've won stability, there's no point looking at anybody else.
Because you want to know where they stand.
No, there's no point looking at anybody else for stability. You test other metrics.
Oh, okay. Oh,
So
I see. You're only keeping it for the one. I would like to know as well the worst country in your opinion based on those figures, because you don't just come to the best one. Okay, they're the best. You still have to deal with the others. So Russia is the one that got the 1 star.
I gave Russia the 1 star because in Russia you find that they're, how do I put this for the audience? I don't want to say anything. You see, in Russia, gravity appears, this is one of yours by the way, Tony. Gravity appears unusually motivated around prominent people. Physics in Russia is particularly powerful. And you can rely on their physics to do. I mean, people jump to their deaths from bungalows. So it's if you can rely on the physics, this is why they're so massive in their weaponry and everything. Their physics is unchallengeable. And as long as you want to do science and stuff like that, you got to think about Russia. So they get the 1 star for that. So work with that as you like.
If there's people watching or listening to our show and totally confused by what Tayo was saying there seems to be a little bit of propensity in Russia for people to somehow fall out of windows to their demise. And
prominent people,
quite prominent people who have some influence in the running of the country in government or in high profile positions tend to have, well, they seem to have real problems with their windows. Far statistically higher than anywhere else on the planet, but that's just a sideshow. Okay, so Russia would only have 1 star.
One star, and the EU has 8 stars. So
8 stars. So where would you put China and the US?
well, China, you see, China had to be a little bit careful because, as you know, I've poo-pooed Windows operating system. Windows operating system. And I'm now trying out Harmony OS, a Chinese operating system. Now, the thing is, I've had to sort of be very careful what I'm going to say, because I made a joke about China, but when I did, my device updated itself, and now I seem to be permanently connected to Beijing, which is a bit. and for that, you see, I was able to give them for stability scores. I thought that would be good for 4 stars.
4 stars.
Because that's nice and steady, and you're connected. You know that Big Brother is looking after you, or watching you, or looking after you. But until I get back into Windows 10. I think the less I say about, well, there's one more thing, because remember it was 2 points per country.
Yeah.
I think the other thing I should say about my thing with China is that I really trust their social credit harmony system, because it's you play this game. It's like you're playing a virtual reality game, and it's the only one where, let's face it, if you lose, it means you have to walk to visit your parents because you can't get on a train. But that means you don't have to go home so often. You see, you have a good excuse. So, you see the Chinese way, there's yin and yang. I mean, they understand these concepts. It's all carefully balanced, and you have to respect that. I think if we go with China, we will end up with a very carefully balanced system. And that's something that I think we should consider. It's not as exciting as being with one of the others. It's just going to be just pleasantly balanced. Where you got to watch what you say, but we have to watch what you say anyway. But it should be okay.
Yeah, but what you've just alluded to regarding their social scoring system, just for the benefit of those who are listening and watching, aren't aware what happens in China, you get scored in China based on what sort of citizen you are in the country. So like in the West, particularly in the UK, we've got a credit score, and sometimes those of you may have seen adverts or on the TV to improve your credit score. In China, they have a social score, so how you are a good citizen. So you actually get points based on your contribution to society. So if you've had misdemeanors, Tayo's alluded to, so say for instance you got a speeding ticket, say, then that would affect you negatively on your social credit score. So you would struggle to get certain services. Whereas if your credit score is good and you're viewed as a good citizen, you get opportunities open to you. I mean, a simple one there is you would be forbidden to ride the train, for instance, at certain times if your credit score was too low. So you'd have to up it. And there's other things like that, services available to you. I don't know if it goes as far as certain places you can visit or eat in and etc. I don't know if that credit score system applies to those yet, but it could do. So imagine if we had a system such as that, because if we align with China, then obviously they are the manufacturing, the manufacturing workhorse of the planet, and we would have forever free, cheap goods. It would solve a lot of our problems in a country, really, if we aligned with China. But equally, they may, as part of any agreement, want to introduce us to some of their systems. And strangely enough, there are some countries considering this social credit score system because it would encourage, in quotes, people be good citizens. I have a fear of Logan's Run, if those of you are familiar with the film, where you end up having to be a good citizen, or what's the one with
Logan's Run is where at the age of 30 you have to sort of voluntarily decommission. Well, it doesn't say so. It says you go off to this paradise place or something, but everybody kind of figures out that has.
Now, what was the one? Was it what was the one? Hunger Games.
I didn't watch
be a
that.
model citizen, and you can, if you a good citizen, you get enough points, you can move into a different area and live in a different area which is more affluent. If not, you are forced to live in a particular area which is less affluent, and so forth. And this is the idea of the social system that it affects. So you as a citizen are not just free to do what you want, your actions matter. If you want to be rebellious, if you want to, be...
Is it really a bad idea, Tony? We're diverting a bit, but all these people who spray graffiti, you get nabbed, it lowers your social score, and suddenly you can't be on trains, which means you're not going to... when you get on a train and then you see these young people putting their feet up on...
they won't be able to do it.
They won't be able to do that. And is that a bad thing?
No.
At the end of the day? They won't be able to get into clubs, into cinemas, and after a while, they will start behaving.
You hope.
Without constant sort of policing and courts and all that. Because just people, I actually, do you know what? I don't want any trouble because I've already got a low credit score. And when I'm talking about young men now, when they meet a young girl they like, and the young girl says, "What's your social credit score?" If it's too low, they're going to be like, "Oh."
Yeah. But there has to be opportunity to raise that credit score, that social.
No, there is actually. You volunteer to do good works.
Okay.
Yeah, there is.
See, that's not a bad thing if you hear it out like this, because you're now making citizens. How can I put it? Contribute to society, and so they should. We're all in this together. We're individual people. We're in a collective, so we should be able to contribute in a positive manner. And if you do the right things, you pay your taxes, you run a good household, you're a sensible individual in your community, then your score will slowly creep up anyway. So, it's encouraging people to do the right thing. What I have an issue, we're digressing slightly, is who decides what the
I was just thinking that. You know why I was just thinking that? Because you've got a particular bee in your bonnet just now, and rightly so, about the Epstein files. Now, I'm thinking that if you every time you got onto a plane with an Epstein file, your credit score dropped.
Yeah.
because so someone like, well, if he's guilty of what's being charged, because, ladies and gentlemen, there's one thing I don't like that's happening now, which is that we seem to be jumping due process, and if your name appears in the Epstein files, you're automatically guilty. Now, that's a load of baloney, and that's really, really bad, and that's not how civilized societies work. So we have to do due process. It's just an accusation at this point. Even our former prince, who was arrested today, I believe. Former prince? Wasn't it Andrew Mountbatten something? Was it Andrew Windsor Mountbatten? Just arrested today, but he is still, under the law, innocent until proven guilty. Because it could turn out to be a whole farrago of lies and misunderstandings. And I'm very passionate about this. So, social score, how is it applied?
Indeed.
That is the everything. Who applies it? Because you know what happens? Eventually the rich get away with it.
Yes.
And so any system you bring in, it tends to be that it applies to the poor people and not to the rich. Now, how it works in China, I have no idea. But they just sacked two very senior generals for corruption. And this particular president, President Xi Jinping, he is really not happy with corruption. So under him, it's fine. But when he eventually goes, everybody eventually goes. What happens when a new man comes in, or woman who is less
tolerant,
concerned, or more tolerant towards malfeasance?
Oh, I see. Yes, indeed. Okay, we've digressed slightly, but I mean, we haven't mentioned the United States. Well, historically, the UK has been aligned with the United States. Mm-hmm. They were the guarantor of security. They were sometimes, or even themselves have mentioned it in the past, the policeman of the world. Took it under themselves to sort of police the planet.
To take up the Rudyard Kipling, something, blah, 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 and carry up the white man's burden. If you remember that poem.
Well,
which basically means look after all the brown people and steal their resources. But
anyway. Indeed. Well, the trust there has somehow shifted under this administration, to put it mildly. Just recently, those of you that are familiar with the news, the US has flip-flopped. I mean, literally days between two different positions 3 times regarding the Mauritius and the Chagos Islands, if I pronounce that right. Chagos Islands. Just for benefit of listeners who don't know what this is about, the UK and the US share a military base in the Chagos Islands, which belongs to Mauritius, and there's a deal that the British government are handing back that island to Mauritius, but we're leasing the actual base for 99 years. And that seems to be going through. And now the US have said it's a terrible deal. Britain shouldn't do it. Then a few days later, it's an excellent deal. Well done. Go for it. And now again, it's changed again. Terrible deal. Shouldn't do it. And it's like, well, hold on here. Who's deciding from the US whether it's good or bad? We seem to be getting conflicting information. And this has been the current administration's language. It's been, you don't know what they're going to do from a day-to-day perspective. So reliability becomes a problem. Especially finance becomes a problem. You don't know how or when you're going to deal, who you're dealing with. If you don't know from one day to the next what you're paying for goods because the president decides to put a tariff on because he's having a bad day, how can you be a reliable partner with someone like that?
I think we should be very careful of blaming the president.
Well,
seriously, now I'm not joking here.
I'm not joking. Stops with the president.
No, I'm not joking. I think it would be a good idea for us to switch off the LHC, the Large Hadron Collider at CERN for 3 months and see if things settle down, because that thing is messing around with our timeline, something mad. So probably what's happening is that Trump is waking up and going, Chagos, good, bad. And then the timeline changes and he goes, no, good. And then the timeline changes, no, bad.
If you're wondering what we're talking about, listen to one of our shows. We talk about whether CERN has changed the timeline and changed our past. That's quite a jovial episode, but we do talk about CERN and the Large Hadron Collider, whether it has changed the past.
What was it? The Mandela effect, yes.
Mandela effect, whether that's changed it. But anyway, that side issue. Right. America now has shifted. It's become more America first. So if you want to deal with America, it's what's good for them first, not what's good for you. It's for them. So if you want to ally with the US, you're willing to pay for protection via them, then you've got to align with their economic goals and relationship and how they run things. So it's literally becoming subservient to the US if you want to align with the US. Now, my view on this, I think the other countries in that list we can't actually align with. I really don't believe we can. because historically we are so intertwined with the USA in terms of a lot of our defense systems, for one, that to move and pivot to a different location would leave us vulnerable, more so than before. Now we've even left the EU. So at the moment, for instance, I'll give you an example, our Trident nuclear system, we don't actually run it effectively.
Yeah, we never have. Since it became Trident.
Yeah. We actually sublet it effectively. So we've got the submarines, but we can't fire the nukes.
We need America's permissions to fire the nukes.
That's right.
Which means they're not really our nukes.
No, they're not. So it's they're their nukes, let's be honest. So we can't create a trade deal with China, for instance. If you think that we're doing this balancing act, we can try and keep America happy, we can do a trade deal with China. No, because our best friend, in quotes, which is Washington, if they say no, we have to say no.
Oh, then we do a total deal. What we do then is we do a total military and trade
never ever happen.
Deal. Well, we could, because what happens is essentially we'd start off with a mutual defense pact, which is what we should have done. That's what we should have done. You see, what's his name? Boris Johnson wanted to be a hero. He wanted to be Churchillian, but he just didn't have the brains. All he needed to do when he had the House of Parliament, is that what it's called? The House of
Parliament, yeah.
When he had the Parliament in the palm of his hand, he could have jumped onto a plane, flown to Moscow, come to an international treaty which is binding on us, that we will never allow Ukraine to join NATO. We will always veto it. End of story. From that point on, Russia has no legitimate reason to enter Ukraine. He would have been the hero, the peacemaker of the time. He just didn't think of it. It just never cropped up in his mind. And he would have been the guy who saved us from the war in Ukraine. Because if Russia would have said, well, in that case, we don't really have a problem with the Ukrainians. So I'm saying that there is a possibility that what the Ukrainians are doing, what the Russians and the Chinese are doing now in flooding Iran with weapons to counter an American attack, because Iran gets a lot of oil from the Middle East, and they need the Straits of Hormuz open so it doesn't. Did I say? Who did I say has a lot of? I meant China.
Iran's got oil.
China has a lot of interest in oil from the Middle East, because a lot of their oil to drive the industry comes from there.
Yeah.
So they've already said to the Americans, "Look, this is for us. This is a red line." And they've got their intelligence assets. I don't know if you're aware of this. They've used their satellites to pinpoint all America's anti-aircraft weaponry in the region and shared it with Iran. They're really serious that no, if America goes in, America's going to get a bloody nose. And if we had a mutual defense pact with China, we would get their weapons if we needed them, and Russia, by the way. And seeing as how Russia has been able to see off 50 nations in Ukraine, I think we could pretty much accept that we'd be safe.
Well,
I mean, within reason.
China's got a carrot, let's be honest, but is that risk worth taking? Because let's be honest, Washington is, even with the volatility of the current administration, they are still more trustworthy than either China or Russia.
Quantify that for me, please. I don't want to interrupt you, but just what metrics are you using? Do you know how many countries China has invaded in the last 40 years?
None.
Yes. Do you know how many countries America has invaded in the last 40 years?
Go on then.
Lots.
Yeah,
you don't even have to. Okay? So what do you mean by who's the Chinese? What did the Chinese do? They built a wall. This isn't this. This is this. Like all these Chinese diplomats that you watch on YouTube, they always say the same thing: that China builds a wall when it feels threatened. They don't want to go out and conquer. They want to be left alone. They just want to do business. That's it. America will cross the oceans to come and fight you on your doorstep.
Indeed. You see, Britain has tried to cozy up to China. And it has, because let's be honest, Prime Minister's in the UK has gone to Beijing, first time in 8 years, to dip his toe in the water, let's be honest, right? To get some sort of export deals, visa-free travel, which is good for me because I'm going there on holiday.
Oh, no, not Tony. A holiday? No, I don't believe it. You beat me. You're going to beat me there. That's really annoying. I wanted to be one blooming place where I'm going to look on a map and I'm going to say, okay, Tony, and I'm going to keep it to myself, and then I'm going to actually call you from that place, assuming it has a cell phone, because I think I'm going to have to go to the middle of Brazil, so the Amazon or something. I go, have you been here? No. Ah, well, I have.
Yeah, but I don't want to go there.
Oh, drat.
The Sakir Kastama went to China, and he didn't mention anything to do with security or technology. Because that would be a little bit too much. See, this is the problem we have in the UK.
No, Tony. No. You always say boiling frog. Is it a syndrome or a metaphor? What is it? Boiling frog what?
It's a metaphor. It's
metaphor.
explaining that if you put a frog in cold water and turn the heat up slowly, it doesn't know it's going to boil to death.
Right.
However, if the water's already boiling, you throw the frog in, it knows it's hot, it jumps straight out.
So the thing is, you don't go to China now, first visit, and start talking about all these other things. You just go and make a couple of trade deals. Then a couple of trade deals, and then a little bit of technology, a little bit of science, yada yada, blah blah blah. That's how you do it. You don't go there and frighten the White House. You just little dribs and little drabs, and then one day they wake up and, oh wow, really? We've gone.
You see, we left the EU, and you were Brexiteer.
Avid or whatever one, yes.
Okay. And you wanted sovereignty. So, how would you compare sovereignty versus safety? If you had to lose being sovereign, we could choose who we align with, and obviously China is appealing in terms of their trade, the way that they're the world leaders in the green stuff, for instance. If we wanted to move forward in that area, they're the ones to align with, because they're the ones that are sitting the flag in the ground, and they're moving forward with their
even the mini nuclear power stations based on thorium. Have you heard of them? The little nuclear power stations. And even Nigeria is getting nuclear power. I mean, we'll finally be able to sort out our electric power problems over there. It's astonishing. I mean, I think 54 countries are going to suddenly get nuclear power. And we can get it, and we can get back to cheap energy again.
Yeah.
Think what that would do for us. And
because they can be constructed fairly quickly within a 4 or 5 year period. And they're safe, and they're small, and they can.
Yeah.
You need a lot of them, mind, but they're still going to solve a massive problem with
absolutely.
Power. And it's a good way of doing it, and China are at the forefront of it. Now, what they will do, what the fear that some people have said regarding China in this is the influence and the money that they put in, because they're happy for you to pay them later. It's not like you pay up front and then they do your bidding. You don't have the money, you can still get the benefit, and then you pay them later.
I know a lot about this because of Africa.
Yeah,
I know a lot about this because of Africa. What the Chinese, you have to understand, everybody's got their cultural, I don't know, sensitivities, okay? Everyone, okay? What the Chinese despise, they've got this thing called face.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know how to say it in English. Face is, I don't know, your social, I don't want to use the word credit. Yeah, your standing, how people see you. your respect.
Yes.
You've got your
Very
respect.
important. Very
And China, face is stupendously important, right? Now, if you got a problem with the Chinese, what they will absolutely 200% not accept and get really upset with you is if you lambast them publicly.
Yes.
They will sit down and talk to you and hammer out a deal, but you must not embarrass them and
It's
make
the
them lose face.
embarrassment angle. There you go. The face is, do not make them look vulnerable, weak, or being insulted.
Just lose face. They don't want to lose face. Yeah, in public. Yeah. So where Lithuania went bananas and went crazy with putting up the embassy, the Taiwanese embassy, and actually naming it the Taiwanese office, or whatever they call foreign office, whatever they call it, but they put Taiwan in the name. Right? As well, look at your face, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Don't do that.
Other people do it, and they put Taipei.
Yeah.
And China doesn't have a problem with that. All right, so that was a misstep, but then they doubled down. It was the doubling down that made China lose face.
Yeah.
Because China protested,
Yeah.
and then the Lithuania made a public response. If they had put someone on the plane to go to China to say, look, guys, we've already done it, and, blah, 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 America is pressuring us, and, blah, 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 they would have hammered out a deal, which is what the Chinese want. But if you do it in public, no, there's a mine in Luanda, I believe. Excuse me.
Yeah.
I'm going to cough.
So what happened? What happened with that situation? The Americans did pressure them, and that's what the Americans do, because they don't want to publicly lambast the Chinese, so they do it via someone else. They put pressure on. Right, you do this. We won't fund you if you don't, and so they almost, through pressure, make the smaller country lambast China, and then China they're angry with the small country, but deep down they know the Americans have put pressure on them to do it. They're not stupid, but publicly the Americans can deny and say, well, we didn't do that. And that's the game they're playing. It's this stupid game that they play with Taiwan. It's ambiguity as well. They play the same thing there. They say they'll protect Taiwan, but then they said, no, we still protect China. We still respect China as the Beijing as the one China.
The one is the one. So this is a big diversion. Digression. Yeah, both parties say there's only one China. There's no dispute about it. That's a funny thing.
Yeah.
Taiwan says there's only one China, but they are the proper China, the headquarters or whatever, the capital. And Beijing says the same thing. So everybody, all the Chinese people agree there's only one China. That's so weird. There's only one China, but you can't sit down and just hammer out a deal. It's really strange. Anyway, so can I just very quickly tell you my system for this? No, America now, okay? Because we started with America.
Yeah.
Okay, so I wanted to point out that the Americans, where is it? Okay, they are very steady in their attentiveness to all their citizens. They overprotect. If, in my opinion, they're so protective of their citizens and so attentive that they usually archive your DMs in a Utah bunker before you even hit send. So all your data, they love you so much. They're so very caring that you got all your data, and we people who are that caring, they've got your back, right? So so I think we can trust them. I think we can trust them, basically because we don't have a choice.
No, we don't.
Yeah.
Choice.
So a little bit like the Russians. You see, the Russians have their own little wriggle, and what is it? The Russians. I noticed the. Oh, sorry. What is? I'm not gonna be able to get it in time. The Russians. When the Russians are interested in your country, you will notice almost invariably that they become very interested in your country. So if we can get them to be interested in Britain, they will be very interested in Britain.
The thing is, though, with Russia, you know where you stand with them. It's almost like they're the villain of the piece. You know you can trust them as being the villain. So you actually can deal with them in a way. When you don't know how they're going to behave, which at the minute is what's happening with the US, that causes an issue. Let's be honest. Because you don't know what you're getting from a day to day. At least with Russia, you know what you get. You get, so in a way, that's even though they're the villain in this piece, you still know where you stand with them.
Do you know what Dzerzhinsky Square is? I'm sure I'm not pronouncing it properly, but it's DZ and then something Dzerzhinsky. I don't know how to pronounce DZ. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Okay.
Do you know what Dzerzhinsky Square is in the old Soviet Union?
No.
It was a square in Moscow, right? And number three, Dzerzhinsky Square, was the headquarters of the KGB.
Okay.
And in Nigeria, back in the 80s, I met a Bulgarian, and I said to her, we were just joking around, Bulgarian woman, and I said, in Bulgaria, we have a very old proverb. Visit number 3, Dzerzhinsky Square, before number 3, Dzerzhinsky Square, visits you. And she said, Taya, that's such an old joke. I said, especially in Bulgaria. She cracked up. So like our Russian brethren and friends, if they're interested in your country, they're interested in your country.
They are.
They are very, very liable in that. See, trustworthiness, you can trust them.
Yeah, the thing. Going back to our viewpoint in terms of who do you trust the most, I mean, we were part of the EU, obviously we were, and we share values, but let's be honest, there's lack of power there. They're not a power like the others. They could be if they pull their finger out in a few years' time, but they're not. And we want to be stable, we want to be able to trade, and the EU is a logical partner because they're on our doorstep and we've been historically there. But as far as safety is concerned, that's not where it's at. So we have to adopt this structural realism that we can't align to just one partner, because otherwise we might as well just be the 51st US state and do what they want. Because if
Greenland will be that, apparently.
That's the problem at the minute, because we rely so much on intelligence. In fact, UK's GCHQ and the US's NSA are essentially two halves of the same brain. If the US unplugs the UK from the Five Eyes network, for instance, which are all linked, Britain will lose sight of the global threats immediately. So if the US gets annoyed with us because we, the UK, want to form firmer ties with China and Russia or whoever, and the US is not happy, they can pull the plug. And we're just, we are just then left adrift. We cannot risk that, because at the same time of losing that intelligence, we could also lose the nuclear threat deterrent that we've got. Because if they choose to stop operating that, we can't operate it. We just can't.
Can I ask you a question?
Go on.
Do we have to have a nuclear deterrent when we're still in NATO? France is in NATO, but France is in NATO, but France is
not
nuclear.
In NATO,
they're not. France is not in NATO, and their nukes. I think they have 200 nukes or something like this. I can't remember the exact figure. If they get nuked, their 200 nukes, what are they going to do against Russia's 5,500, whatever it is, warheads? If without the West saying, okay, you're not in NATO, but we're going to look after you. Germany's got no nukes, but they're in NATO. We are in NATO. We are covered by American nukes, actual American nukes. What independent action are we going to take with nukes? Even if we could control, even if we could press the button, what independent action would we take anyway without America's say so?
We wouldn't.
That's what I'm saying. It's a fig leaf. It's nonsense. We don't even need
power in standing only because other countries know. Oh well, they have got nukes.
Yeah, but you're never going to use them.
No, I know. But then neither would Russia, really, and neither would China.
No, Russia has actually changed its nuclear doctrine, so it has changed.
They have now. But do you know what I mean? Unless they were really under threat of attack and being attacked, yeah. But the point is that the whole exercise here, you've got this. You're spending billions on the darn thing, and you can't even use them. So what's the point in having them? You're actually right.
That's what I'm trying to say. That is no point. That we shouldn't worry about that. You said that the GCHQ is two parts of the one brain.
Part of the NSA's brain. Yeah, the two are so linked.
I think that GCHQ, because I worked with a girl who went off and worked with GCHQ. Obviously, she couldn't tell me all this sort of thing, but she was going as a database programmer and everything. Yep. And she was explaining to me that the listening devices, the phone calls and all that is all GCHQ. Apparently we got, as Britain, ability to listen to virtually anything all over the planet, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah. No,
so I don't think America wants to lose that.
No, they don't. But that's why I think we're intrinsically linked. In a way, we have to place the US as number one, regardless. It's not our. It's nothing to do with loyalty either. It's compliance. We are not a sovereign state. We think we are. We pretend we are, but we're not. Okay? Because
we could be.
We could be, but we're not. We just won't do it. Because the USA is like a mandatory trust. We have to trust them. Because they are the power brokers. Yeah? We cannot choose differently. I mean, EU...
Well, they're not very trustworthy is the problem.
The problem that's happened here. But we've made our bed. We have to lie in it. We are, technically, the 51st American state. Or are we just a high security aircraft carrier for the United States?
This is what I believe we are. I mean, this is the way our politicians are working. See, I've got this black and white approach to life. I say, well, no, I'm not going to do that, and then I just execute my plan anyway and deal with the consequences as they come along, because that's the best way forward. Short-term pain, or short to middle-term pain, long-term success, especially if we frame it as we are not choosing sides. Now, we could develop, for example, what from your point of view, to address your concerns, we could be very close to China and Russia on trade.
Yeah.
Just trade. And then militarily and everything, close to America. But will the Americans let us?
With that? Yeah,
exactly. we both said it at the same time.
Exactly. That's the problem.
And in that case, you just say, in that case, goodbye.
Well,
and
no,
you really put the questions.
We can't stand on our own. This is the problem.
We don't want to stand on your own. Then you stand with
the... Let me give you a good way of looking at it, right? The EU, right? Mm-hmm. We trust them like an old ex-partner. Familiar, but we don't want to move back in, right? That's the EU. China, we trust them like a vending machine. As long as we put money in, we expect stuff to come out, but we don't trust the machine that much not to nick our data at the same time, right?
Yeah, well, data, yeah.
Yeah.
Why am I connected to
the USA is the one that we have to align with because we trust them like our landlord. We might not like the rules they play by, and they can put the rent up, but we've got nowhere else to live. Let's be honest.
But our landlord is broke. And one of these days, our landlord is broke. And one of these days, the people he owes money to are going to come for their money, and then we don't know where we're going to be.
Indeed.
Because we're getting to the point. I can't believe that. I mean, how much longer can they keep up this Ponzi scheme? I mean, China is now nakedly selling treasuries. Nakedly.
Yep.
And they actually, why I say nakedly, is because they told their banks, guys, get rid of your treasuries. And they've never done that.
I know.
So
yeah, the EU, the UK has got so many American bonds. Canada has.
We have got 650 billion or something horrific like this.
I know.
I don't know why we're still holding them. Everybody else is dumping them like mad.
Well, they can't dump them too quickly because then it affects their own economy. So it is a challenge. But hey, right, we're getting to the top of the hour.
Apparently,
here.
you could, because you could set it to the. Because I was asking AI, I was like, how could they sell it? Because who's going to buy it? And AI said, well, actually, what do they call the central bank in America? The Feds.
No, they can't buy their own one. They're borrowing.
No, that's what AI
said.
That's what AI said.
They can't do it. No.
They said they'll take the treasuries and give you dollars.
Yeah, but they'll
print dollars.
Yeah, I know. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, they print the dollars, so they'll take your treasuries and give you dollars. And the dollars are more. Oh, there's a word for it.
Same problem.
No, because you can spend the dollars more easily. The greenback, isn't it? Or what? Fungible. The dollars are more fungible. Yeah, the dollars are more fungible than treasuries. Yeah. Anyway, you were going to ask me.
Yeah, well, we got to the top of the hour, so we need your sum up. So who do you trust more, USA, EU, Russia or China? If you had to put them in an order, have we answered this actual question?
Yes. So, Russia gets 3 stars.
Okay.
China gets 7 stars.
Okay.
USA gets 11 stars.
Yep.
And the EU gets 15 stars. So the EU is the most trustworthy bureaucracy.
Yep.
The US is the most trustworthy surveillance state. China is the most trustworthy scorekeeper and privacy invader. And Russia is the most trustworthy gravity architect. Now, so you take that and you make your choice, basically. 15 stars for the EU, 3 stars for Russia.
So that would imply that we should actually align back with the EU.
Well, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
It would make sense to do so, so economically, let's put it that way. Still have America because they're our partner for security, etc., and that will still remain. We're too bedded in. They're our landlord. That we're the 51st state. Let's be honest. That's here to stay. But if we want to improve our financial standing, we do need to
not improve.
Create trade deals with everybody.
No, not improve.
Just the EU.
If you want to be certain of how you're going to meet your doom, the others are less certain. But with the EU, the trajectory to the wall is well set, and that's what makes it good. Well, we know that in 100 years' time it will all fall apart. Now let's get in there.
Okay, we've got to the end of the show. If you've loved this episode, please hit subscribe and stay tuned for more deep dives into prophecies, mysteries, and the unexplained twists of fate. You've listened to Tony and Tyre, and we are the TNT Talk Show, but unfortunately we have reached the end of the show for another week.